like the 4 minute mile when the first person broke it, like
Yes.
people literally thought your heart was going to explode.
All right, cool. Well, let's get to it here. So first question, we'll start with Caroline and go to Taylor for most of the questions, unless it's obviously directed to you. But when you're standing at the end of the runway, looking down, what are you thinking?
Honestly, not a lot. Like that's a pretty common question, and like definitely not something super technical that I'm thinking about at that point. Like if it's a competition, like I just don't think about technical stuff.
Yeah.
If anything, I just like am focusing on pushing really hard in my first 5 steps to really set myself up for everything after that. Like I just let myself think about like be powerful for these first 5 steps, and then just kind of let everything else take over. Like I've been doing this for over a decade, right? So I don't really have to think about it. And yeah, I've always found that less is more for me from what I'm thinking about standpoint.
And would you? Oh,
Sorry.
No, go ahead. You can go ahead.
And yeah, like for myself, it's almost the same thing because there's not many things that you can think about and do like really quickly. So like if you're trying to think about something in your technique, like it becomes very mechanical and not like fluid. So I just try to like kind of blank everything out and more think about like the competition.
Yeah.
Because if somebody just had a big jump, like you just want to feed off that.
Yes.
And if you're not really paying attention or in your head too much, you can kind of miss that and you become like disconnected from the competition. So just kind of like going out there and like being an athlete and just like competing and doing what you actually went there to do.
Is that something that you guys like just kind of came up with on your own, or like did coaches kind of teach you to just like, hey, just forget everything and just go?
I think it goes back to probably when we were younger, you try to think about stuff and it just like wouldn't go as well. So you just kind of naturally learn just to compete
from experience.
So, like, yeah, just like the more competition you have, the little bit you learn, and you see like what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So that's just experience.
I'd agree with that. Like nothing good can ever come from like trying too hard. And definitely back in the day when I would be standing on the runway thinking about like, okay, like push off the board, blah, 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 blah. Like that's me trying too hard when I'm like running through all these things in my head. And then like Taylor said, like you just get disconnected from the competition and they're good in that.
That's super interesting. So, oh man, I want to go 2 different ways with this one now, but we'll go back and then I'm sure we'll get to this. So, all right, think back to like when you guys first started athletics or track. What do you guys call it in Canada, by the way? Do you call it track and field or athletics?
Track and field.
Track and field. Okay, perfect. That's what we call it here too.
Yeah.
So think back to tiny little Caroline and tiny little Taylor. Like, basically, just tell me, how did you guys get started in long and triple jump, and like, why did you pick that event versus others, etc.?
Right.
That might have been too many questions.
No, it's okay. Triple jump's an interesting one. Usually when you tell people that that's your event, like their first like remark is, oh, like I could never do that. Like I couldn't get the footwork, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I stuck with it, because I was able to get the footwork. And like I specifically remember standing in a high school gymnasium in elementary school and just like a teacher doing triple jump with us from a standstill, and like nobody could get it. And I'm just like, guys,
This
like
isn't
what,
that hard.
like what's going on? So I think I stuck with it more because like nobody else could do it. So automatically I was doing well in competitions.
Right.
But when I was in the 8th grade, I wanted to be more of a distance runner at that time. So I ran the 800 and the 1500, and I really, really enjoyed distance running, but I always just, you could do 3 events at that time. And I always just had triple jump as my 3rd event because it was kind of like an easy automatic win kind of thing. But when I was in the 8th grade, I ended up breaking a school board record. And then, making contact with a club coach a little bit outside of the town that I grew up in, and he kind of told me, you know what, you're a triple jumper that can run the 800. You're not an 800-meter runner that can triple jump. So from there, I just kind of decided, all right, like this is going to be my bread and butter, I guess, and really, really grew to love the event and, you know, how technical it is compared to, you know, running, which it's still technical, but it's a different beast.
Okay. And quick follow-up.
Yeah.
When was your first competition where you were like beating boys? Is it like right away?
Probably like grade 8. I think in the 8th grade, I was jumping like just over 10 meters.
Wow.
And I think boys at that age are just so like awkward.
Yeah.
They could barely get it, or they just like sky the hop and then like can't come out of it. Right?
Collapse.
So, yeah. So probably the 8th grade. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Tiny baby Taylor.
Yeah.
Were you ever tiny, by the way? Like, cause you're what, 6'3", 6'4"?
I was like thinner.
Okay.
I'm 6'1". And
oh, 6'1". Okay.
Yeah, I've probably been 6'1" for a while now.
Nice.
And yeah, it's definitely just like thinner. But so I grew up in London. And for what we had in elementary school, we just had like maybe 2 weeks leading up to like track and field day. And then we went to the local like university, so Western. And then just like, one day that we had a track and field meet with the Catholic school board.
Yeah.
So throughout elementary school, we could also choose like 3 events. And so you would usually just choose like a run, jump, throw, or it's just whatever your school kind of had.
Little precursor there, foreshadowing of the decathlon.
So I'd like run the 80 meters or the 100 meters, whatever one it was for that age group. And then I'd usually choose either high jump or long jump, but I was never the greatest at high jump.
Okay.
So then it would always just kind of go to long jump, which I kind of excelled at. And then I'd usually run a relay. I wouldn't want to throw like the ball, like softball throw. That's what it was in elementary school.
Nice.
So just kind of did that all the way through elementary school, just doing that one day. And then when I learned in grade 9 that there was like a track and field season, I obviously tried out for the team and just kind of excelled at long jump. And then finally joined like a track club when I was in grade 10, and just kind of stuck with the same thing. It was the one that I kind of liked the most and the one that I actually excelled in. So chose me.
The two kind of feed off each other, right? Like the better you are at something as a kid, the more you're going to want to do it.
Right.
The more you want to do it, the better you're going to get. So it's just like,
positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. That's super interesting. So did you do any other sports too? And like, I guess, what are the popular sports in Canada or in your area in Canada?
Yeah. So for me, it's probably hockey. Like it's the most popular, the one that everybody kind of just plays.
Yeah.
Oddly, neither of us played.
Yeah. Like I grew up with a single parent, so I didn't like hockey is very expensive.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, it's insane.
So, and she was a nurse, so it's like shift work, trying to go to like get ice time. Like it just was never asked her if I could play, and it was like a hard no, and then it was like again.
I guess I'll do something else.
Yeah, so then it was just like soccer. It was more like all like summer sports kind of stuff. I'm not like a huge like cold winter person anyways. So yeah, it was always just like soccer, and then I played football in high school. But mostly just
And I played team sports, but I never really like cared for them the way that I liked individual sports. So my like as a kid and even throughout high school, like I played soccer and basketball and stuff, but my 2 main sports were track and field and cross country. Like even up until grade 12, I was still running cross country because I just couldn't let go of that distance runner dream. But
sure, yeah, that's funny. Awesome. Okay, so again, so many ways we could go with this. So you both kind of did track and field and then into the jumps because it was kind of what you were good at. And then there was a moment in your career where you went from being like good at it to like, oh, this person's like better than most people at it. You know, like what was that point for you? And I'll have a follow-up after that.
Cool. So for me, that was probably the 10th grade. So our in our high school system, OFSA is like the provincial championships, which would be comparable to your state championships. So like,
Gotcha.
I don't know about you guys, but like the provincial championships is a big deal. Like it is like, they call it the OFSA Olympics because like
wow.
it's a huge deal.
I suppose there's way
yeah.
less provinces though too. So like, I feel like it would be just
It's
more
true.
of a big deal.
It's very competitive. Like for us being in Ontario, like it's been said that OFSA is the most competitive high school meet in the world.
Wow. Holy smokes.
Yeah, you just get like Toronto, you get like Ottawa, just like really
sure.
Yeah.
Big cities.
Most Canadian Olympians have gone through like OFSA, and like if you look at the records, it's like all our
pretty much
our Olympic team.
Yeah, pretty much the Olympic team is mostly OFSA like winners.
Is DeGrasse from that area, from Ontario?
Yeah,
okay,
from Toronto.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
So making OFSA grade 9 is what I expected. Like I started to have the success in the 8th grade, but then I went to OFSA and just like got my butt whooped, and I'm just like, okay, like maybe this isn't the event for me. Like I'm not sure. But then the next year I came back, I won and I broke the OFSA record, which was held by Tabia Charles, who is the current Canadian triple jump holder. So she went on to jump over 14 meters. 1399, you're right, sorry, 1401 indoors.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So it was when I broke her record that I was like, okay, like if I'm just as good as she was when she was my age, then surely like I can go far with this. You know, at that time I'm still triple jumping in like sprint spikes. I have like a step run up. Like I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that was the moment for me that I was like, oh dang, like this could really. And then, you know, the next year I made World Juniors. The year after that I made World Youth and then World Juniors. So then it just kind of started to go up and up for me.
Sweet. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How about you?
Same year. Like it was kind of in between grade 9 and grade 10. So again, OFSA, I thought I was going to make it, but I actually didn't even make OFSA. So you do like your city championships, and then you do, it was like Southwestern Ontario, and then you get a little bit bigger, which includes like Toronto.
Yeah.
And then it's OFSA. So when kind of the Toronto kids came down, like obviously there's just so many of them, and it's just like a bigger picking pool. Like a lot of them were all good. So I didn't actually even make OFSA.
Wow.
In my first year in long jump, and then kind of in my second year and third time going around, like I got a little bit better every time. Like I came third in grade 10, and then I think I won in grade 11, 12, and then I went for a victory lap in grade 13. So it was, it's like a really slow kind of progression for me. But then once like I got up there, like I was jumping pretty well. So
what was pretty well? Like what was the change for you? Was it like going from 650s to 7 all of a sudden, or 7 to 730?
I think it was like the first time I jumped 7 was in grade 10.
Wow.
I believe. I can't even remember.
I think
it's so long ago.
Your OFSA in Hamilton, which was my grade 10. So I think when you were in grade 11, you jumped like 715.
Wow.
Yeah. But then by my last year, I jumped 773.
Oh, like your 13th?
Yeah.
Oh so my gosh.
18 then. So I jumped 773. And the interscholastic, so like the high school Canadian record was 774.
Oh,
for
wow.
775. So I just missed it by a little bit, but like even that was like a really good year for me. That grade 13 water, and that's when World Junior was. So it just kind of led into that.
Okay. So and you jumped 763 at World Juniors, right?
Yeah. So in the finals, that's what I jumped. But to make the finals, I actually PB'd there and jumped 776 or something like that.
Wait, what do you mean finals? Like they have like a prelim?
So yeah, they had like the qualifier. So it was like 26 athletes, and then they cut it down to 12. And then we jumped the next day again too.
So you said you went 776 on prelims?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because so like the stadium was already packed, and again it was in Canada.
Yeah.
So like it was hard to not, like, you're feeling fresh, like it's hard to not like PB in that scenario.
Yeah.
And then then we jumped like the next day, which is a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, that's tough to do for sure.
So then everybody wasn't jumping like as good as they did in the prelims, but 770 or 760 through the year.
Okay. Yeah. So then Caroline, and also, do you prefer Caroline or Caro or Care or some other?
I think it works for me. Yeah. I've heard
Okay.
it all.
All right, perfect. All right, so what was it for you? What was that distance change, in your jumping, going from like 10 meters to a 12 to 13?
Yeah. So when I was in the 10th grade, when I broke that first OFSA record, I jumped 12. Sorry?
No, I was just gonna ask you what that record was.
So it was 12:04.
Okay.
At the time I was like 15, so like that's pretty good for a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Then the next year when I was in grade 11, I broke the Canadian high school record with 12:76.
Okay.
So then obviously my next goal is 13 meters. Like I just gained 70 centimeters in a year. Surely I can jump 13 meters by next year. And that next year I also jumped 12:76. So I didn't actually improve. And that was the first time that I experienced that. So that was really hard for me. So I was still very good as a high school jumper to be jumping that, but in my mind, I should have been over 13 meters by then. And that kind of, unfortunately set the stage for my first few years of university, because I continued to be plateaued in terms of my performance, and it took me years to get over 13. But once I did, I've been way over ever since. So it's interesting how it works, but I would say my most significant, jump, no pun intended, was from that low 12s to the 12:76, like still in grade 11 kind of thing. Yeah,
that's humongous. Like 70 centimeters is crazy. Also, I was hoping that at some point in this interview the jump pun would happen.
It's hard not to, right?
Yeah, right. So so then the follow-up question, and this is probably the meat and potatoes of this whole interview that I want to know, and I think other athletes would probably want to know, is like, what was it at each of those big jumps for you, from 12 to 12:76 and from 7 meters to 770, like what was there something that you learned technique wise, or like did you just get stronger, faster? Like what was it that made that huge jump? And then again from 12:76 to 13, and then from 13 to 13:80,
Right.
That's a tough question.
Yeah. Let's start with the high school jump and then we'll go to now.
Yeah, because I think there will be something different probably for each.
So for me, for that high school increase in performance, like I think it's literally as simple as like I was a kid and I didn't really know what I was doing and I was just working off raw talent.
Yeah.
And then, that year between jumping 12 and 12:76, I really started to understand the technical aspect of the event. I did start to get faster. I started to get stronger. My body was changing. Like probably I wasn't a kid anymore. Like it just was as simple as that. I wasn't triple jumping in sprint spikes anymore. That probably helped.
My heels hurt just thinking about that.
Yeah. So like it sounds maybe overly simplistic, but I think that was just a product of sticking with the event and being determined and working really hard. And just, it's kind of one of those bound to happen kind of things.
Totally.
Definitely. What about for you? in high school?
I think just like consistent training. Because
Okay.
again, coming from elementary school, it was just like 2 weeks leading up, you'd like do a couple events, like
Right.
just for fun kind of. But then yeah, when I joined a club in grade 10, it was like the consistent training, like working with an actual coach. And so it was probably just like getting stronger, getting like faster, getting more technique. So just stuff like that
Yeah.
kind of just like clicked together, because like I was pretty athletic throughout all of my like youth.
Right.
So it was just kind of trying like connecting that to track and field.
Gotcha. So just kind of like refining that raw talent that you guys just had, basically,
Yeah.
and getting stronger faster,
For sure.
etc. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then
And then
next
now,
phase, yeah.
So jumped that 1276 when I was 17, didn't break 13 meters until I was 23. So that was
Wow.
a long 5-6 years of
Yeah.
like I probably jumped in the 1280s like over 100 times.
At any point there, did you ever doubt, like, well, shoot, am I actually capable of 13 meters?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Like, probably every day.
Oh no.
So that was hard because I was still working really hard. I was stronger and faster than I was in high school, and
Right.
you start to resent yourself as a kid because it's like, how was it so easy for me back then? Whereas now I'm part of a proper like university program.
Right.
I have the means in terms of like a weight room, a proper facility, and I still can't do it. But it's just one of those things that happens to some people in sport when they're very good at a young age.
Right.
And you just need to stay with it long enough that eventually you do see those results, because it's not going to happen overnight for some people. But you have to be willing to stick with it long enough to, reap the rewards of the work that you've put in.
Okay.
And that's what I told myself. So when I was 23 and I jumped over 13 meters, that was like huge for me.
Yeah.
And then, either the next year or the year after, that was my first time over 1350. So that made that weight worth it, because it's like then I just made this huge jump within 1 year.
Right.
So yeah, I would say my biggest jump, like post collegiately and after high school, would have been that just over 13 to be. I don't know what my furthest was. I think that was my 1360 year actually, but I would say the biggest difference was that I really just stopped trying so hard. Like I wasn't over.
Interesting.
And I just learned to accept that I'm not going to be one of those people where it happens overnight, and I have to just keep being patient. So mentally, that was the biggest difference for me. Like I just learned to like love the sport again, and I stopped resenting like who I was in the past and stuff like that. But from an actual like sport perspective, I did get like insanely strong compared to where I was earlier in university.
Okay.
Which in turn made me faster. I started to understand technical a little bit more, and everything. The stars just kind of aligned for me.
Okay.
Finally.
Yeah.
So
that's super awesome though.
Yeah.
I think it goes to like when coaches say like, oh, like I know you can do this, like like, yeah, we know you can jump 13 meters, but like, and like you believe it, but there might be something in the very back of your head that you don't really believe it. And it goes back to like the 4-minute mile when the first person broke it, like people literally thought your heart was going to explode if you ran that fast. And then one person did it, and then like so many people did it the next year. It's like, okay, like it actually is possible.
It's possible. Wow.
So, and then like, yeah, that first time that I jumped 7 meters, it's like, holy, okay, like you can't, it's like very cut and dry. Like I jumped 7 meters, that's what it is. And then right after that, like you just start jumping like 701, 715, like it just goes up from there. And it's like, okay, like that doesn't, like I didn't get that much stronger in like 1 month. Like it's just like the belief system of being like, okay, like I can actually do it.
That's super interesting. I never thought about that before, like how powerful the mind is at limiting what you're able to do. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so when you were saying you hadn't hit 13 for a while, were
Mhm.
you hitting 1280, 1290 and you just like weren't able to crest that number? Or was it like you just weren't improving from 1270s?
Yeah, like I would say my first 2 years of university, I actually got worse, like jumping like
Okay.
1250.
Okay.
And then by the end of my university career, I started to get back up into the 1280s,
Yeah.
1290s. Like I had some 1298s, which sucked. And
But
then
oh no, go ahead.
yeah, and then in my last year of university, my very last competition, our university nationals, I jumped 1316. So
Okay,
like
wow.
wasn't just like over 13. I was like well over it, and then yeah, then it just continued to progress from there.
It's funny to watch like some athletes kind of going, because we practice with, or like not this year because of COVID, but in the past, like we've kind of just practiced with the Western team because it's our coaches are the Western coaches as well. And
Okay.
it's funny to watch them compete, and you can see that like a PB is like really close, because
Mhm.
when you start to like get closer to like, let's say the 7 meters or whatever it is, like 720, and they just start jumping like 710 regularly, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, like there's going to be a big jump in there. And it's just like, and then you finally get that one competition and then they jump like 730,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
then that's like kind of where they jump. Like you can kind of see it if you pay attention to
totally.
Yes.
And like
athletes.
they don't understand it at the time. So like athletes will get frustrated, like, oh, I jumped 710 4 times in a row. And we're just like,
Yep.
awesome. Like you are
That's the sign.
yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting.
That's super like encouraging for me because like that was my experience through college as well, and from just watching other athletes, like when you hit that plateau, even though it feels terrible, like
Yeah.
that's usually when that big jump is about to come, you know.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, in your case, it took a few years instead of, you know, a few months or a year or whatever. But
Mhm.
it's still like once you hit that plateau, like that means you are consistently hitting that mark. And then
Mhm.
all you need is just a little change or something, and then you can move up to that next
Yeah. So
improvement.
that's what we try to tell ourselves, like as we encounter new
Right.
plateaus as we move on. Like I've been jumping in the 1370s for 3 years now.
Mhm.
And like I don't get worked up about it because I just know that that means I'm getting closer and closer. Like if I can do that consistently, then all I need is the right wind on the right day to pop off like the 14, right? So
Yeah.
you learn from that.
Yeah. Or I mean,
Yeah.
like you know, in the triple jump, if your position is off by, you know, an angle, you know,
Yeah.
a degree, like that's all of a sudden, because like when I watch you jump, I'm like, holy smoke, she's easily got 14 in her. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like just whatever it is. I don't know what that will be, but it's there.
Exactly. It is a good event in terms of like you can make up so much distance in any
Hmm.
given jump. Like
Right.
one of my 1376 competitions that I've had, my first two jumps of the competition were like 1310. So
Yeah.
now when I go into competitions and I don't have a great first jump, like I just remember like, okay, within 5 minutes I can turn this around. It's just like
Right.
a matter of one tiny thing being off.
Totally.
Yeah, for triple jump, like you think about, oh, you just have to jump 15 more centimeters. And when you think about that, you're like, okay, like to an average person, they're like, oh, 15 centimeters isn't that much.
Huh.
But to like track and field athletes, it's like, no, that is a lot.
Right.
But
Right.
when you think about like triple jump, like that's like 5 centimeters per phase.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
it could,
Totally.
it's right there.
Yeah.
That's
So
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And oh, what was I gonna go with that? Ah, oh, Taylor. So with the long jump, it is different for long jump than triple jump too. Like you were just pointing out, like you have 3 phases to cover a certain distance. And so like improvements in long jump are definitely going to be more small and feel bigger or feel smaller depending on how you look at it. But like um I think it's interesting, and would you agree or disagree that 7 meter mark is kind of like a convenient little milestone because then you're just in the sevens for a longer period. Whereas like with triple jump, like getting to 13 weirdly seems like a harder or like harder.
I think I know what you're trying to say.
Okay, yeah, why don't you go?
Yeah, like 7 meters to, I don't know, I'm not gonna be able to explain it. Why don't you go?
Like what you were saying, Taylor, was like once you hit 7, then you were going 701, 710, 720, and like it didn't feel like you had this next barrier blocking you down until 8 meters, obviously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what
get
I'm
you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah. So you tend to, you're not putting so much pressure on yourself because you get over that 7 meter. Even when I'm like explaining it now, like 7 meter barrier, like it's literally just another number.
Right.
But like you keep on saying like, oh, the 7 meter barrier, like it's just like, so then your brain makes it into like a bigger thing than it really is.
Yep.
And then I feel like when you jump over 7, that's like you mentally saying like, oh, I broke that barrier. And then it's just like so much easier after that. And then again, I think if you're at a high enough level, again, you kind of think about 8 that way. And it's like, oh, the 8 meter barrier, but like, it's just like, and then when I was kind of jumping 780, like I was waiting for it to come. And then again, like, I think it got a little bit too hard for me to like try to like break that barrier. And I wasn't just like, let's just like run and jump.
Right.
Because I just wanted it every single time. So it was the pressure. So.
Okay, that's super interesting. Like, because it seems to just keep recurring is like that, how powerful the mind is over like improving and whatnot. Because like, so in college, my goal was like to jump 16 meters. Like I wanted to jump 8 and 16, you know, like the nice even numbers. And I never got it. And so then, you know, after college, I took a time off from track, and then I started coaching. And then I'm like looking at my old film, because now as a coach, I'm looking at things differently. I'm like, man, I should have like been able to get that. And then I started thinking like, man, I could jump 17 meters. I don't know if that's actually possible, but like in my head, I'm like thinking that. And then all of a sudden 16 meters just seems so much easier. So like, I wonder if there's anything, and would you guys say, to thinking above and beyond your goals to help get to like a in-between step? I don't know. Like if you started thinking 1430s, you know, and you started thinking 820s or something like that, how much do you think that would impact your ability?
I'd let myself go there. Like for me, with the new way that Olympic qualification is working, with the whole, like you have 5 performances that are scored based on what competition you were at and who you beat and what the conditions were, like it's starting to seem more and more out of my control in terms of qualifying for the Olympics, because it's not just one set standard anymore.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so in a nutshell,
so confusing.
In a nutshell, they have one really high standard. So instead of the standard being 1410, it's 1435. So they're hoping that like 8 people will hit that, and then everyone else will qualify based on your top, your world ranking. And your world ranking is scored based on your top 5 performances. And like what meet you were at, what place you came. It's really complicated.
That is interesting.
And it's making a really black and white sport complicated, which is necessary. But anyways, not a huge fan of the new system, because for unfunded, unsponsored athletes like us, like we can't get to those big meets in Europe where you can score the most points. Like I can jump 14 meters at a twilight meet here in Canada, and someone can jump 1350 at a big meet in Europe and score higher than me, which is insane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So again, maybe another topic for another day. But what I was getting at was, I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I will not qualify for the Olympics through this ranking system. So if I want to get there, I need to jump 1435.
Let's go.
So that almost makes 14 meters seem more doable, because I'm like, man, it better be doable, because I got to fly over that. So that's just kind of the mindset that I've been adopting. Like, is it a huge long shot that I'm going to be able to do that? Absolutely. But if I'm going to shoot for 14, why not shoot for 14:30 and secure my spot kind of thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we can switch gears here. So Taylor, back to you. What made you change from long jump to the deck?
So that was 6 years ago.
2015.
Yeah. So almost 6 years ago.
Okay.
So like I was saying, I was jumping 780s, like 790s, and I probably jumped 780 at every single meet for like an entire year.
Wow.
And okay, like
that's
so
scoring big points in the deck.
Yeah, so I'm still winning like a lot of like meets. Like I was winning, like we compete around London, so like London, Windsor, Toronto. Like I'm still winning all of those meets by probably like in between 20 and 50 centimeters. So it's like, okay, I am winning, but like I'm not really progressing. And at that point, the next step would have been World Championships or the Olympics.
Right.
And I had jumped, that was 820 was the qualification.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, like if I want to make any big teams, like that's the next step. And then the next year, it started kind of to go down. So then I started to jump like 770s and then 760s. And then like I could kind of see myself declining. So at that point, I was training with Damian Warner, the decathlete.
Oh, yep.
And like we were good friends. So like I'd see him do stuff and like we'd just be training at the same time. Yeah. It's like, oh, like I think I could probably do that. Like, yes, he is faster than me. Like I'm not like he made OFSA in the 100 and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, sure. I'm faster. Yeah. But it's all the other stuff is like I feel like I could also do that. Yeah. And see him succeed like pretty young into his like track and field career. I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna like try it out. Like I'm not really enjoying long jump anymore because at that point, like I was just like super frustrated. Like I had been doing it for so long. It's just like, okay, like I'm not going up. Like if I'm continue to jump 780s, 790s, like maybe I can like do another push. But like at the point it was kind of going downhill. Okay. So I was like, okay, like let's just switch. Like there's like I'm not gonna have any regrets. Like I've done everything that I wanted to do in long jump other than make the Olympics. Like let's just try something else. And then I tried it, and then the first couple years of doing the deck, I'd never actually finished a full decathlon. So I was like very reluctant on calling myself a decathlete because like I hadn't actually finished one.
Like from a physical standpoint, like you were exhausted?
So it was more like physical, as in I like something like I tweaked something in a certain event.
Gotcha.
Like,
okay.
It was going well, and like my performances were good in the sense that I like started like 2 years ago. But I never actually finished one. Like something would always kind of get tweaked or something, and then finally in my third year or fourth year, like I finished second at like the Canadian Championships.
Okay.
Like,
wow.
Doesn't usually compete at the championships.
Of course, the 1 year.
Just because he like it's so close to World Championships and stuff.
Gotcha.
Like he does a couple of events. So in that sense, like I came second to another like world class athlete. Right. It was like holy, like I finally finished one. Like I finished with 73 something.
No, 78.
No, the very first year. The very first year, 73. And then the year after that, I PB'd by like 500 points. Sheesh. At that point, I PB'd before the 10th event. So then I
at
the end of it.
That's awesome. So what is your personal best in the deck in each event?
I'll help you.
On the spot. Yeah, that's a lot of things to remember.
I could just pull it up too.
So my personal best is 778.82 in the whole decathlon.
Right.
Um,
That's crazy.
So day one is the 100, long jump, shot put, high jump 400.
Okay.
So the 100 is 1082. And then in the actual deck, I'm not sure what my best is for long jump.
Okay.
Like 760 something.
Yeah, something around there.
Okay.
And then shot put is 1643.
Wow. Okay.
Indoors. And then, or I guess like, so outdoors like 1583 or something like that.
So right around that 16.
Yeah. High jump is 2 meters.
Okay. So
And then the 400 is pretty bad with 51 or something.
51? Okay.
Yeah, again, like I never came from, like I was never good at like cross country, and like I just don't have that in me. So
what?
You can't have it all. You can't throw a 16-meter shot and also be a good 400-meter runner.
Right, right. We're not all Ashton Eaton out here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So quick question. How much of a difference in points is it from a 51 to like a 49 or 48?
Yeah, so for pretty significant for the power events. So like the easiest events to score 1,000 points in, which is like pretty big, is 100, long jump, and hurdles.
Okay.
Kind of the top athletes like Ashton.
Yeah.
Very like he would always score 3,000 points in those three events.
Gotcha.
And the decathlon is definitely moving that way. In the past, like there have been like really good like pole vaulters and throwers.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But like you can see with how the sport's going, it's leaning more towards like the power speed athletes.
And are you pro that change, or you think that's not so good?
It is what it is, I guess. There are definitely athletes that have been able to score like 85 or 86 with being able to throw a lot farther and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
It's just, I think, a little bit, I don't want to say easier because it kind of like undermines like what they're doing.
Right.
But like
right.
it's just, it is a tiny bit like more doable, I guess, to score like to score 1,000 points in, let's say, javelin. You have to throw like 85 meters with
That's a chuck.
so, or you could jump like 780, 790.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just like one's a lot more doable if you're together.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then for the other events, so day 2 is hurdles, discus, pole vault, javelin, 1,500. So in hurdles, it is 14, 20 something.
25.
Maybe. Yeah. Discus is 47 or 48, right around there. Pole vault is 5 meters.
Wow.
And
that's
then,
solid.
Yeah, so that was an event that a lot of newer decathletes struggle with. For some reason, it just kind of clicked for me. Like it went pretty quickly.
Do you think your long jump background helped with that?
I would assume so. Because it is kind of, other than carrying the pole, like if you kind of took the pole out of it, you kind of jump the same way. And you kind of have the same approach, like pushing for a couple, like getting up tall, and then like having that like strong takeoff.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in pole vault as it is in long jump. So I think because I was a little bit stronger than most long jumpers, like it just kind of like clicked pretty quickly. I think in my first one I jumped like 445 or something like that.
Nice.
So it was like a pretty quick turnaround.
Right.
And then for javelin, it's 58 something. And then the 1,500 is 448.
Okay.
Again, it's like just not, endurance is just not my thing. And
It's faster than I could run it, that's for sure.
I've accepted it. It's just kind of like, we know,
Yeah.
like when I'm training for it, like the athletes that I train with are a little bit more endurance-y. So it's just like, I don't even beat
Right.
myself up
Yeah.
Right,
after.
right.
Like it is what it is. Like,
And unlike the 400 with the 1500, like it's not the worst thing in the world to not be great at. It's not
Yeah.
a high scoring event.
That's what I was gonna ask.
It's kind of just like do what you can and hope for the best.
Yeah.
At
It's just
that
like,
point, it's a 10th event, right?
yeah, you just gotta survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've always thought, like in the, like trying to make the Olympics, like in my head, I'm like, I hope it doesn't come down to the
Oh
1500,
man.
because it is like, if you, let's say my PB before I ran 448 was 503 maybe.
Wow. Okay, that's big boost.
So like it was a pretty big jump, but I just had to compete against a different, like another athlete. I just had to beat them by 11 seconds,
Gotcha.
which is actually a lot in
Yeah.
the 1500. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just gonna like lay it all out there, whatever. And then I didn't actually beat them because they ran with me and they also PB'd by like 8
Gotcha.
seconds. So, but like that was very like super, super hard.
Mhm.
So kind of like a bad mindset that I've had is like, I really hope it doesn't come down to like, okay, your PB's 448, and like to make the Olympics, you like you can make the Olympics, but you have to run 430. Like I'm just
You would
like,
do it.
that would be so,
You would
like
do it.
just mentally, like I think it would be like,
Right.
okay, like this is it, like I'm making the Olympics or not, like I have to run it.
Right.
But it's always just like kind of like a fear in the back of my head. It's like,
Well, because
oh,
you probably
Know that you're a competitor and you can do stuff like that. Like when we
Yeah.
were at the World Francophone Games in Africa in 2017, you needed to run a very specific time to still win.
Yeah.
Because we knew that the other guy was going to beat you because his PB was faster, but he couldn't beat you by a certain amount.
so
He had
Gotcha.
to stay within like 10 seconds of him. And
Yeah.
it was like most excruciating. Like I'm even getting worked up just thinking about it. It was
Yeah.
excruciating, but he did it to like the millisecond.
That's
so
awesome.
give yourself some credit for like just being a competitor
For
and
sure.
like, standing up in those moments.
Yeah. I can believe that. I can also see, I can get what you're saying is like, if it did come down to that, I would probably think back to like, oh shoot, if I just threw like a little bit further or jumped a little bit further and I
Yeah.
didn't have to put it
Yeah,
on this.
yeah, exactly. And it's such like a long event that like you're just in your head. Like by that point, I don't care what any decathlete says. Like they're tired. Like you are so,
Yes.
like, you're physically tired. Yeah, like even waking up on day 2, but like you're just like mentally exhausted by that
Mhm.
point. Like 48 hours of like just thinking track and field is like you don't want to see like a track ever again. So at that
Yeah.
point, like it's like, okay, like I need to just like get out of here. Like
Mhm.
so
I guess that makes sense because I always wondered why like our decathletes had so much distance between actually doing a full decath. Like, but that makes sense that your body is just probably destroyed after that.
yeah. And again, like, yeah, you just don't even want to see a track. Like you're just like, why did I even do that? Like right after, while you're running the 15, you're just like, okay, this is stupid. Like this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. And then right
Yeah.
when you finish, you're like, okay, like I want to do another one. So it's
Oh
just like,
wow.
yeah, it's just so it's so weird.
Yeah.
I feel like track in general is just we're kind of messed up in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're different human beings.
Yeah.
It's good though. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock and obviously we're over the 30 minutes and I apologize for that. I have just a few more questions if you guys have time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
You got it? Sweet. Yeah, this has been really cool. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. One that's related but unrelated was I saw that you have a triple jump mark, Taylor. What
Yeah.
like you were in the 15s. That's you know
Yeah.
respectable.
So,
What made you
yeah,
stop?
so I think it was in grade 11
No.
or grade, oh, it might have been grade 10. Yeah, it might have been grade 10 when I kind of joined track club. I think I kind of got like, not like pushed into the event, but like kind of nudged like, oh, you should just try it, like whatever.
Right.
And then I did it that year in high school. And then, yeah, I did the classic, like completely skied the hop, had a small like step, and then like did a big jump, but then like slowly got that better. And yeah, I dabbled in it, but my knees aren't the greatest.
Oh, that's
So
totally fair.
like, yeah, like my left leg is my jumping leg, and it was like my hop step, and it was like, okay, yeah, I can do this, but the jump on my right, like weaker leg, was just like killer. So
Yeah.
just body really couldn't hold it, hold it
Wow.
together. Not everybody can do it.
Well, so is it frustrating that his 15-year-old self who did it once could jump further than me?
Yeah. Could you beat her right now, or who would win in a triple jump today?
Today, probably not.
Success. Oh, another competition question. Who is more competitive between the two of you?
I think Care is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty even, but if we had to choose me.
Yeah. Well, like even when we're playing like spike ball.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like we're on a team.
Yeah.
But like we're just like, I'm kind of like just more like having fun. Like I am competitive, like I want to win, but then like I won't be serving like as hard as I can to whoever we're playing, and then like walks over and it's just like, you have to destroy them. And it's just like, okay, well, I thought we were just having fun, but yeah, we're not anymore.
Okay, when you bring up spike ball, yes, it's probably me. But on the track, I would say you're more competitive. Like that's a huge area that I'm improving. Like I'm more of like I love training, like I love the grind, and sometimes I talk myself into a competition. And that's something that like I think I need to fix before I get to the next level. It's just sometimes it's hard for me to get into a competition and really get pumped up and like channel that like inner competitor that like if someone out jumps me, like I am pretty clutch in those moments, but I think there are a lot of instances where I can feed off the competition a little more, whereas like I feel like that is so naturally you and it always has been. So I think on the track, like definitely you.
So with that question, when it comes to jumping, do you prefer to jump first or last? Like, you know, do you want to just throw out a big bomb and say, come get me, or first? Oh, okay.
First. I hate waiting around. I hate when there's more than like 8 people in the competition because like I just want to go.
Yeah.
I don't like sitting around waiting, especially like, oh my gosh, if the first like round or two don't go very good, like I'm just like so anxious to do my next jump. Like, can you hurry up and get out of the pit kind of thing? But what about you?
I was always a last. Like again, like I'm pretty good at like staying in the competition, and like I like watching other people, if it's the decathlon, like doing the other events or in long jump, like just jumping, like I like seeing what they did and like paying attention to like, okay, like that person just jumped like 7 meters, like this person, like don't need to worry about them, like they're not having a good, like just staying like in it. Because again, like if I was just to put in music and like walk away and come back, it's like, okay, I don't know, like am I in first? Am I in last? Like, so I was always like wanted to be last, and like just like if anybody like got close to me or like was beating me, like I could just like kind of try to throw out a big one. Like I wanted to like be in control of like the situation. So
you wanted to have that ability to respond at like if anybody made anything, it moved up or whatever.
That like I wanted the last jump. Like I wanted to not like jump and then just have to like sit and wait and like, because you can't do anything, so you're just like
yeah, that's true. And there have been many situations like that in track and field where, you know, someone gets that like last jump, but there's people behind them and they're sitting in third or something, and someone bumps them out of a medal. That's
and
heartbreaking.
Like, and then even if like you could have one more jump, like you could probably respond to, but because of track and field, like it's just like that's it. That's all you get.
That's it. That's all. That's one beautiful thing about track, a little bit unrelated, but just like how you can compare yourself to anybody in the world and know where you stand. You know, there's no like variables, like with team sports or whatever.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the beauties.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I could probably talk for like another hour with questions for you guys. So let me know when you guys got to head out. You probably got to go work out. Have you worked out today yet?
No.
No.
Today's a recovery day, actually. So we're just going to be doing some biking and some. Are you throwing this evening?
Unsure. I have a physio appointment today, so just like kind of getting the body right again. So
gotcha. Ankle, hamstring.
Just like maintenance, and like my groin's a little bit tight, so just
Gotcha.
kind of getting everything kind of worked on.
Yeah.
Keeping the body loose.
Okay. 2 questions and then I'll let you guys go unless you're good staying on. First one is about injuries, and then second one is about your training. So I'll start with the training because I think I'll remember injuries easier. Who writes your guys' training plans? Like, do you guys write them? Do you have a coach, etc.?
So we've had the same coaches for like forever.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I moved to London here where we live now to start university in 2010.
Okay.
And the individuals who were my university coaches are still coaching me now post-collegiately.
Awesome.
So I've been with them for a long time. So Vicky Crowley, she's the head coach of Western University's track team, and she does like my overall programming and like sprint days and stuff. And Frank Earl, he's my specific jumps coach.
Okay.
He also coaches for the university, and then Taylor actually does my strength training program.
Wow. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And
pretty much the same. Vicky Frank was my jumps coach when I was in university.
Okay.
But now Vicky takes on most of the roles, and then I just have a specific pole vault coach and throwing coach.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do you think that if you had to right now, you could write your own like running and specific like jump and throwing workouts?
I think for myself,
that would be hard.
It would be hard. Like, I know we kind of have the same schedule every week. Like, we hit the same events every single
on each day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But if I was to write it, I wouldn't be able to put like those really hard workouts in. And then like the specific things that Vicky sees.
Yeah.
Like you just can't. Everybody can record themselves and like watch it in slow motion, but like a coach is actually able to like see it like from start to finish, like from an outsider's perspective.
100%.
So I don't think I would like. Yeah, I can write a sprinter's workout. Like everybody's done a sprint workout,
right.
But specifically for me, no, I couldn't. And then also some days when you like look at your workout sheet and it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the hardest workout ever. Like there's no way I would be able to sit at a computer and be like, okay, I'm going to run a 500, 400, 300, 2 minutes rest.
Yes.
Like in my head, it's just like, okay, that's not possible.
Right.
But then obviously when you get to the track and you look at it, you're just like, okay, like this is going to suck, but like, and then you're able to do it.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was going to say. Like, I think I would be able to come up with workouts. Like,
right.
That would be weird if I couldn't, because I've just been in it so long. But it's the overall program and like yearly training plan where like that's where our coach's expertise is like huge, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure we're doing the right volumes at the right times. And then even from outside of programming perspective, like just to have their expertise like while watching us, like that's what's most important at this point in our careers. So,
yeah, for sure. Does it feel like your guys' sound went out a little bit at all, or is my sound weird?
No.
Okay. Can you guys say check 1 2, check 1 2?
Check 1 2, check 1 2.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's my headphones, and unfortunately, maybe that's a sign. I don't want it to be over. I'm gonna talk to you guys forever. All right, we'll get into injuries, and if the sound is funky, then it'll just be funny to watch back. So obviously, Taylor, you said you've had some hamstring and groin, and I think I saw ankle something in your vlogs. And then Caroline, you had a back injury recently.
Yeah, so back in 2017, no, 2019, I had a really bad back injury that put me out like in the middle of the season. But fortunately, once that was dealt with, it was said and done. It hasn't been a reoccurring thing. My biggest thing has just been my knee, unfortunately. Just product of being a triple jumper for this long.
Totally.
For the past 3 years.
Okay.
It comes and goes. Fortunately, right now I'm in a good place with it, but it can be pretty like debilitating at times for sure. It is my home leg.
No.
It's just been a process of figuring out like what works, when does it get aggravated kind of thing, and just working with it.
Yeah.
But I've been very fortunate from a standpoint of like those fluky, like one-off injuries, like a pulled hamstring or a rolled ankle. Like I don't get that. I've just really had this one chronic thing that I don't well at this point. So I consider myself fortunate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have like complete opposite, like career, I guess. Just like kind of injury prone.
Okay.
Just I honestly have had like sore knees since I can remember in the sport of track and field.
Yeah.
I've had surgery on my right knee for patella tendonitis, like injections, everything you could think of. Had a couple, loose bodies, whatever that means, that have had to come out in surgery. So I think for me, the biggest thing that's kind of holding me back in sport is kind of just having a healthy year.
Yeah.
I've been pretty fortunate this year that nothing's kind of come up too bad.
Good.
But yeah, like I've had patella tendonitis since grade 10, and it's just like I kind of at this point I know how to like live with it.
Yeah.
Like my knees just get super sore after like long jump practice or like pole vault, and it's just like it doesn't even phase me anymore. Like the body's just like so numb to it that it's just like, oh yeah, my knees are sore. Like gonna have to like walk down the stairs like sideways today. Like it's just like so
that makes me so sad.
Yeah. It's hard. I think with track and field, because you're training like at like your max almost every single day. Obviously, you have recovery days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But because you can't really work on anything like technical without doing it almost like 100%, it's really hard to like have
recover.
That fun. And like you are pushing your body every single day, or you wouldn't get better. Like with team sports, like let's say football, like you can work on like your routes a little bit, you can work on your catching, you can work on like, but like for track and field, like if you want to get faster, you have to push your body.
Right.
It's like even to get stronger in like the weight room, like you can't just lift like weights all the time because like it's just not gonna have an adaptation. So it is hard for track and field athletes because I think all track and field athletes are like a little injury prone because like it's just like the sport of trying to push your body.
Right.
Yeah. It's just part of it. Like you can't expect to never get injured. You just have to learn through experience over the years and as you mature, like how to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I thought that video that you made about like 9 steps to, deal with an injury, like that was spot on. Like, so I had some plantar fasciitis and some other things in my calf and lower Achilles area. And it was the first time like I had any like real like major injury, like through college, I was pretty fortunate not having any injuries, but it was like everything you talked about, like the mentality and like how like you have to be positive going through it. And it was just really interesting to see like how it was like exactly what I was feeling when I was going through it. what was I gonna say? Do you think, so it's interesting having Taylor, you had kind of chronic injuries, and then Caroline, you only had, a handful. How has that changed let me rephrase, how have injuries changed your mindset about the sport, like gratitude towards being able to compete, and then
Mhm.
your mindset towards training in general? Um, like, do you feel like it's made you better at training because now you know a little bit more about what will hurt your body and not?
Right. Um,
I I think for one aspect, because I've gone through so much, I feel like when I get injured or have had an injury later in my career, like it's not really a big deal to me anymore. Like
Interesting.
at the end of last year, like I really tweaked my hamstring. And it was just like, oh, like I just kind of like walk to my bag, like pack up my stuff, and it's just like, oh, like I have to go see a physio, like and it's kind
I've
of like,
done this before.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a thing, like okay, I'm obviously really upset, like oh, I don't want to stop training, like was in good shape, like stuff like that, and like that's frustrating. But it's just like okay, like I just have to like take it easy for like 2 to 3 weeks, or like if it's longer, it's longer. Like my body will heal. Like I trust in my body that it will heal, but it's just like frustrating. But I think for Caro, when she hasn't had like bigger injuries, I think like it kind of hits her a little bit harder. Like when there's something happens, like it's like when I was younger, like it definitely like you like roll your ankle or like hurt your Achilles or something like that. Like you're just like okay, like the world's gonna end, kind of stuff. Like I
Yeah.
can't recover from this, and I think it's good that I kind of went through that earlier for her, just to like reinforce like oh no, like you'll be back, like it's yeah, it sucks, like obviously you can be upset, but like you will heal, kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
think
even just yesterday, like I woke up yesterday, my knee was a little bit sore, and it's been really good lately. So I was really discouraged that I've made all this progress with it, and then just out of the blue, I wake up and it's sore. And yesterday was a jumps day, so I was nervous I wasn't going to be able to practice, and I was getting really worked up about it all day. And Taylor's always like super reassuring, like I'm sure once it gets moving, like it's going to be
Yeah.
fine. I'm always thinking worst case scenario. That's just who I am. And then, sure enough, I get to practice, I warm up, it's completely fine. I have a really heavy jump day on it, and it feels better than it
good.
did before.
Right.
I said to him when we were leaving, I was like, I think my fear of the pain is worse than the pain itself.
Interesting.
And it's just like super mental for me, and just a matter of not getting worked up when I do feel something. Because yeah, it does hit me really hard, because this sport is just like, it's so important to me, and when I'm not able to do that, I really struggle mentally and emotionally, so I never want to be like taken away from it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah,
sure.
injuries definitely, it's hard in this sport again, because like track and field does have a pretty tight timeline, and in comparison to other events, like when you hear, it's hard to compare yourself to like the best in the sport, but like Tom Brady, like he's like 43,
Right.
and he's still like yes, he's like the best quarterback, but like for you can't run like sub 10 seconds when you're 43 unless your name's Kim Collins, but like
Right.
other than that, like it's like pretty short. Like there's not like there's technical aspects to it, but like if you're not in like your peak performance of like
Right.
of your body, like it's just like it's gonna diminish. So like it's hard to like get injured, and it's just like oh my gosh, like okay, I'm running, like I'm 29, so it's like at this point it's like okay, like
every month matters.
like at this point, like I'm almost done. So like it's frustrating if I get injured, because I can't just like put it off for another year.
Right. I will say, so I'm 29 as well, and I've kind of started to train just a little bit again, just for my own sake, trying to see how far I can jump. And so I looked up a whole bunch of like professional athletes, and like at what age did they kind of hit their peak on like IAAF. And there were a few, and I think Jonathan Edwards even had some like good years into like his low or like early 30s. So I was like, you know what? I could get a few more years in of this. So don't quit this year, Taylor. Don't quit next year. Keep going for another like 5 years.
Triple jump is definitely an event where you see a lot of older athletes at the highest level. Like I think I have a project in high school in like a data class that the average age of a female triple jumper at the Olympics over the past like 3 Olympics, this was back in like 2008, was like 32, 33 years old. And I think like because it is such a technical event, people really start to hit their stride the longer that they've been doing it.
Totally.
So,
I think it's kind of like pole vault too, is that way, right?
For sure.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
So the deck has, you know, pole vault, a couple other things.
It's hard to like be like, we're in that weird stage in track and field where we're not like right up with the Olympic class, but we're just right there.
You're right there.
In Canada, it's pretty hard to be right there because like it's like the funding, like stuff like that. Like we have a house, like we have a family, like like normal life doesn't get put on hold when we're just wanting to train. Like it's just, so I think like the stressors of life is just like, it's hard when you get up there. And I think that's like why a lot of people do exit the sport, because it's just like, you probably could have made it if like you could hold on to it for a little bit longer, but like if you can't pay your mortgage,
just like, logistically,
so
totally.
It's hard in Canada because a lot of the top athletes go down to the States to train full time, or they go over to Europe. So when you are like just below that level, it's you and every high school kid in Canada.
Gotcha.
So you go to these meets and you feel like a dinosaur. So you're just like, oh, like how was OFSA this year, little buddy? Like you're like 30. So it's really, really hard, especially in Canada, to stay in this sport. Not even just from like a money perspective, but just because everybody leaves, like just because of the weather and stuff. So it's interesting, but I hope that times will change for this sport in Canada, and that maybe one day it get to the level that we see hockey at here. But
we want that globally for sure, you know.
It's a very underappreciated sport all over the world.
Definitely.
Maybe in Europe, they love their track and field there, but
if only.
I think it's an exposure thing. Like we need to get it on TV more. We need to get the athletes out there more for people to fully understand how amazing it is.
For sure. Totally agree. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this. So
that's awesome.
Gosh, I really, really could go on forever. Like I have a whole list of questions I didn't even get to. But I really appreciate your time, and I want to let you guys get going and respect that. 2 things. Is there somewhere you would like to let people know if they can, you know, want to follow you, you know, shout out your YouTube channel, etc., or get in contact with you if they desire to?
Sure.
Yeah, we're both on obviously Instagram, like most people are. And then we also do have a YouTube channel, just like day-to-day like vlogging stuff.
If you just search
now?
If you just
the
search
Ehrhardts.
Maybe you can make the spelling come up, because it's very difficult. You can find us there, and we're really open to making the content that the people want to see. So if anyone has any suggestions for us, but for the most part, it's just day-to-day training stuff, some things that we've learned along the way. We have a lot of fun doing that.
It's really interesting, people, so go check it out for sure. I love watching it. And then what was the last thing? I had a sign off. Now I forgot it. Doesn't matter. You guys, thank you so much. This was like seriously wonderful. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome people, and I wish you best of luck for this upcoming season and your training. Hope to see you at Tokyo. That'd be sick.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. See you guys later.
Bye.
See ya.